The Virgin Red Rewards credit card, it's been reintroduced into the market. I applied for it and I got approved. I love trying out different financial products and sharing my opinion and also providing information on if it's worth it in your situation. And this credit card, it's definitely going to be a controversial one. We'll cover what it has to offer to us, as well as go over my personal opinion and rationale for even getting this card and what I think about it in the longer term. And with that, let's get straight into it. So this card comes with an intro bonus offer of 40,000 bonus miles after $3,000 in minimum spend in the first 3 months. The miles we earn, they're part of the Virgin Red program. There's a lot of different redemption options, and it's not just going to be Virgin Atlantic flights. We have cruises, hotels, experiences, essentially anything a part of that Virgin Red program. We're going to focus more on the flight redemption path. And so in general, if you're redeeming these points, I'm going to really speak about it in the context of just purely flying Virgin Atlantic. And with that regard, the cent per point valuation, if you look at it like that, in other words, what are these 40,000 miles worth? They're generally publicly known to be worth around 1.1 cents per point. So in other words, 40,000 miles is maybe, let's say, $440 in worth of travel. But there's some sweet spot redemptions when it comes to business and first class, where you're getting multifold of this value, which that's actually next level. And I'll get more into that later on in the video in the analysis section. From a more day-to-day earn rate perspective, we're looking at the following structure. We're looking at 3x on Virgin Voyages, Virgin Hotels, and Virgin Atlantic. What I'm about to say is going to be probably way ahead of its time, but I used to trade this stock back in the day, ticker symbol SPCE, kind of like space, and it's for Virgin Galactic. In the future, if they ever introduce 3x on flights to space, that'd be pretty neat. From there, we're looking at 2x on the following categories: dining out, groceries, EV charging, and popular streaming services, and 1x everywhere else. This card has an annual fee, and it's $99, but there are a few benefits to kind of offset this and see if it's worth it for you or not. The first one's going to be the fact that you can spend on this card and get closer to different levels of status with Virgin Atlantic. The high level understanding of this program is that there's 3 levels. They're red, silver, and gold. With regards to actually getting the status, for red, it's just like signing up for any loyalty account for free. Just by signing up, you'll be at that red level. For silver, you'll need 400 tier credits, and for gold, you'll need 1,000. And how this comes into play with our credit card is as follows. Each and every month, if you spend $2,500, you're going to be getting 25 tier credits. And you can do this 2 times. So let's say you spend $5,000 in a month, you'll be looking at 50 tier credits. For example's sake, let's say we're not flying Virgin Atlantic ever, period, and we're just spending on this card. If we do that math, let's say there's a maximum of this 50 tier credits per month times 12 months, we're looking at 600 tier credits earned. In other words, silver, we could definitely get it. Gold, we're not going to be able to get it, period, just because of the maximum limit of needing more than 50 a month, and we need 1,000 credits total to hit that gold level status. In general, Virgin Atlantic, they're based out of the UK, but they're part of the SkyTeam Alliance. In other words, if you're booking, let's say, Delta flights or KLM/Air France flights, and there's other partners a part of the overall alliance, basically you could be either flying Virgin or using Virgin Atlantic's portal to book these type of, let's say, Delta flights or otherwise. And before we move on to the other benefits, I do want to call out that I'll be giving more of the, hey, what you really need to know about these kind of benefits. So for example, the second one here is, hey, book 2 nights, get the third one free. And sounds very straightforward and very valuable. But there's other perks that are also part of the benefits of this card, but a part of the Virgin Red program as a whole. Although it sounds great, there's kind of these, oh man, I really wish I knew that, because it's not as straightforward as it seems. Third, we have the fact that we get an anniversary mile bonus of 5,000 miles for just keeping your account active. If you think about it, 5,000 miles, we're getting them. And if we value them at that 1.1 cents per point value, that means that's basically worth like $55, but we're paying $99 for the annual fee. So just alone on that one point, it's not going to be a break-even type of card in the longer term. This is the case when we're not really spending on the card. At the same time, there are certain kind of spending milestones where you earn these things called personal perks. And the tranches are going to be at $15,000 a year as well as $30,000 a year. And they're as follows. The following perks, they're the same. It's just the fact that when you hit 15K in spend, you get 1 of them. And when you hit 30K, you can choose 2. The first is going to be for a flying club voucher for a companion seat or a cabin upgrade. The second is going to be a priority room upgrade or 1 free night at a Virgin hotel. And the third option we have is up to a $300 bar tab credit or something known as the Blue Extras Perks package on Virgin voyages. The way they market this is that you get up to 6 options, but they're basically batched into basically your flights, hotels, and Virgin voyages. Essentially a couple different perks which are part of each vertical under that Virgin Red program. I'm in a different spot, needed to check out from the other hotel, and we're checked into a different one. We got a different shirt on, more facial hair. But with that, let's keep it going. So when we're signing up for this card, the intro offers 40,000 miles at the time of recording, but there's a way to get an extra up to 10,000 extra Virgin points. This is going to depend on your situation, where you can get an additional 2,500 Virgin points for each authorized user card you add to your account up to that 10K maximum limit. In other words, 4 authorized users total for this total extra amount. And with any travel card, especially one with an annual fee, I'd expect there to be no foreign transaction fees, which is the case with this card as well. Right before moving on to my personal reasons and rationale for getting this card and what my plans are for the future with it after hitting the bonus, the main thing I want to call out is the following. The reason behind discussing this type of tier 3 card in my books, where let's say Amex and Chase are the top of the top, typically speaking, and tier 2 are going to be some strong airline, hotel, or strong cashback kind of, specific use case cards. This card over here, it has a great intro offer, but if you're not able to really take advantage of the benefits or other things that come with this card, then it really will feel like a one and done. For me, in my credit card journey, I'm 60 plus cards deep. So what that means is I'm not looking at your, let's say, Chase or Amex or certain kind of more popular famous cards, either because I already have them or I'm above that 524 threshold where, I have more than 5 accounts in a 24 rolling period where I'm not even going to be able to be considered for certain Chase cards. And with Amex, they have something known as a 4-5-6 rule, which if you have more than 4 or 5 or 6 of specific cards with them, then you're going to get auto denied, where you're forced to cancel, let's say, one of them to even put in an application for another to be then considered for an approval. All that said, this Virgin Red card is basically a card with, hey, there's good upfront value and there's potential long-term value, but is it the first card or the first 5 cards that anyone should ever get? Probably not, but I'm discussing this after having what experience I do, and then having hands-on experience with this specific card, I can tell you the following. The first reason where this card was considered a more easier sell than not was just the fact of how flexible it is. In other words, how many credit card issuers there exist today where Virgin is a transfer partner with them. And in some cases, it may be known as Virgin Red versus Virgin Atlantic. In our case, I'm basically optimizing purely for everything with flight miles. So whether it's our cruises or Virgin hotels, I'm not too concerned. That said, within Virgin's Red's program, let's say you transfer, just an example, 1,000 points, you can still distribute that within their experiences once they're in that program very seamlessly. The crazy part is whether it's Amex, Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, Capital One, the built Mastercard by Wells Fargo, which kind of is its own rewards program, Virgin literally is a program with all of the folks I just mentioned. This means that even though this credit card earns specifically Virgin miles, if we ever need a top up or some type of certain amount, it doesn't matter. There's so many programs which you can top up your balance with. The second reason is that I'm currently based out of Atlanta, which is a Delta hub, and Delta and Virgin Atlantic are part of the same SkyTeam alliance. This means I'm able to book domestic flights on Delta, sometimes for cheaper with the same miles to be spent, where I can book a Delta flight on Virgin's platform with their miles, versus, let's say, needing to book a Delta flight with Delta miles. In the same vein with Virgin being based out of the UK, LHR, London Heathrow Airport, is basically the hub for British Airways, which is a part of the One World Alliance, which has partners with American Airlines, for example, or Cathay Pacific. But let's say we're part of the SkyTeam side of everything, then that's where Virgin could have its benefits if we're trying to go to London, for example, from Atlanta. This basically speaks to more flexibility when it comes to domestic flights and booking, and also kind of your more, US to Europe travel. And at the same time, there's some supreme sweet spots when it comes to everything Virgin Atlantic. Everything Japan seems like a huge topic when it comes to the points and miles community and how folks can optimize to get there, whether that's business class or first class. And one of the sweet spot redemptions is the fact that you can book ANA, all Nippon Airway flights, through Virgin Atlantic. There's some really swell deals where your miles can go way further in value. I'll put them on screen. And this is just one use case of really sweet spot kind of redemptions with Virgin Atlantic, and there's a lot more depending on where you're trying to go. If you're considering getting this card, this is what I wish I knew first. Virgin Atlantic is not like Spirit Airlines or Europe's Ryanair or our Frontier as well, where basically the seat is super cheap and then there's a lot of these ancillary fees they're called for baggage, seat selection, and otherwise. With that understanding though, I will say that just looking at the program as a whole, I've kind of seen certain kind of data points which speak to it being closer to that versus like, totally clean across the board, super easy redemptions, and all these type of things. So let me share a couple examples. One of the benefits we unlock when we spend, let's say, 15K on this card is a cabin upgrade slash seat upgrade. And the thing is, as simple as it sounds, someone like me, I would get, the most basic seat ever to then just get an upgrade, let's say, to get to the next rung. But you need to buy, in certain cases, let's say a specific seat type to then be eligible for that upgrade. So in Delta language, if you're buying, let's say, economy to go to Comfort Plus, you may need to buy Comfort Plus to then maybe get the upgrade to first class. Just a simple example. Similarly, with the hotel side, you get, let's say, one free night after spending this same 15K threshold. It's one of the options of the benefits you get to choose. But the problem is you may not be eligible where that hotel may not be taking those, free night kind of certificate equivalents. Or let's say some of these hotels within the Virgin program, you can't even use points to book like a stay there. Like it's not even possible. In other words, even if you want to pay as much as you want, it just may not be an option to literally redeem X amount of points for a room. So it's indirectly saying, like, let's say there's 100 hotels within their program. I don't know the actual percentage, but if you're telling me, let's say 15% of these or even more, God forbid, have this kind of limitation, then that's not really a feeling of, oh, I'm, someone who's earning these points and then can redeem at pretty much every single property. At least I would like to have that choice. And maybe it's always sold out and that's just the name of the game. But if the choice isn't there, then I'm like, okay, it's a part of the hotel program, but then it feels like a so what. There's a third benefit where we get when we hit this threshold where you can get up to that $300 bar tab credit. And it's just that like language like that, up to $300 bar credit, which tells me, okay, so maybe if it's up to, then I need to do some type of qualifying activity or pick a certain threshold of, seat within the cruise, like some type of room or whatever. And so that kind of feels like, okay, $99 annual fee, $300 bar tab credit. Maybe the bar stuff is, kind of just a higher price than just, obviously the grocery store. And so even if you try to justify that, oh, $300 bar credit, maybe it's equivalent to 100 and my annual fee is 99, so I can break even in that way. It's not really apples to apples in terms of a comparison. Switching over and looking at this more from an airline status perspective, there are ways where, because it's a part of the SkyTeam Alliance, Virgin Red, we can have our status acknowledged where, let's say on Virgin, you're silver or gold, then that could mean something when you're flying Delta, where you still get certain perks, even if you're not a medallion member on Delta side. This Virgin status can help you with Delta and vice versa. I've heard that, even though someone has X level of status, it may not show up because of, let's say, just say IT systems in the background, or it doesn't show up on your app or otherwise. But, nowadays, everything really is digital. So if it's not on your app or shown on your boarding pass when you're checking in, for an e-check-in, then, it's really not the flight attendant's unfortunate issue if you're some level of status, but it doesn't show on your app. It kind of just sucks for everyone because you're not getting the benefits. They're not able to really verify unless they have a second way. So just like small things like this, that even though they're part of the SkyTeam Alliance, maybe that's not Virgin's fault only, but just wanted to call this out if it was something that, you're traveling, you expect something, you don't get it, especially when it comes to being more comfortable or otherwise, especially on a long haul flight. I think it's something to know than not. Coming more now to my application experience and approval odds, in general, if you're thinking of applying for this card, I would say that prior it was issued through Bank of America, but now it's issued through Synchrony Bank. Their target market is more of your subprime folks, which basically means if you have, let's say, every data point is going to be different, but 620, 630 kind of plus credit score, which that's not really that great. So in other words, you have a high chance of approval irrespective of kind of where you are on the spectrum. As long as you have some income, they're happy to basically give you an approval. But with that said, Synchrony on the other end also has many downfalls from a customer experience standpoint. So you can get approved, but keeping the card and then having kind of benefits or even kind of, taking advantage of certain benefits that you need to because you have the card, this may be more of a pain than not. In short, your approval odds are probably really high for getting this card, but just because you're going to get an easy approval isn't really the reason. I would just say go ahead and get this card for basically no reason, absolutely. And if it's just hitting the bonus and then not keeping it in the long term, that's up to the individual. But I would say to keep this card in the long term, it's really going to come down to either spending on the card heavily to get these benefits, which if they even like have, make sense to you or have value. And then a second point is really when it comes to status, where, hey, is this going to help you getting some type of Virgin level of status, which may help you on Delta flights or other SkyTeam partners. Synchrony gets a bad rep, generally speaking, But when you have personal experience with them, you realize, oh, okay, this is why you get a bad rep. So I'm not bad mouthing them, just speaking from personal experience. And there's another card by Synchrony, an airlines focused card. And I would say something to consider similar to this Virgin kind of situation we have here. So I'll leave that video over here and I'll see you there.